There are many different kinds of beautiful. There are many different ways to look healthy and beautiful. I know personally for me, the body that you've been comparing my current body to was the unhealthiest version of my body. Healthy can look different.
Well, Gypsy Wandering, you know, I don't really feel like I have like an illness. I really feel like I'm doing fine. Like, I don't really feel like I have to like address anything or like I need like help right now or like whatever.
That is a mindset not atypical of people suffering from EDs, by the way. And EDs would be disordered eating. Total denial right up until it's nearly too late for anything to be done about it. It's worth noting here, right out of the gate, that EDs, and especially ANA, is the deadliest psychiatric disorder in the world, and EDs often coincide with the desire to unalive oneself, which tracks because in many ways, it's the decision to unalive yourself slowly and insidiously. So EDs are no laughing matter. Nor is it something to trivialize or gaslight the public about, since we are noticing the normalization of this illness unfolding in Hollywood at a drastic rate, right before our very eyes. It's not just Ozempic. The Ozempic is facilitating EDs for those who are taking it and were never obese and not treating diabetes. So I'm not referring to the Amy Schumers, the Lizzos, the Mindy Kalings, and the Meghan Trainors. I think they had legitimate reasons for wanting to take it. But all of the other celebs that are using it are doing so because they want to be thinner. It's just as simple as that. They are using it to restrict their eating to an unhealthy degree so they can look smaller. The exact mechanisms at play with those suffering from ANA. So despite what some may say, mainly Ariana's fans, the more responsible discourse currently taking place around Ariana's deterioration, there's no other way to put it, which is just a microcosm for what's unfolding in Hollywood at a larger scale, is a very good and necessary thing. We need to be having this conversation, no matter how painful it is. For once, the public has said enough and is calling these celebs out and denouncing toxic diet culture and deadly beauty imperatives and telling them all exactly where they can shove it. Many of us are casualties of the harmful, deeply pervasive thin culture of the 2000s and earlier decades. Therefore, we don't want to stand idly by as they cause body image issues in another generation of young people, making them think literal emaciation and muscle wasting is aspirational, let alone normal or healthy.
Am I allowed to talk about it yet? Like, are we allowed to talk about it yet? I already tried to post a video like this before and it got like completely shut down by TikTok. So I'm going to be speaking very delicately in this version. But Ariana Grande's Eternal Sunshine Tour started last night and I can't even look at the pictures and videos that have come out of it because they are so triggering for me.
Anytime anyone says anything about this lady, y'all always jump them. Y'all always say, oh, stop talking about women. You don't know what she's been through. Ariana Grande, I don't care. She's 32. This is incredibly unhealthy. I watched the video of this performance and you can tell she has no energy.
I'm going to throw something out there and say maybe the problem isn't Ariana Grande's weight. In case you missed it, she kicked off her Eternal Sunshine Tour over the weekend. It is her first time touring in 7 years, and you would assume that that would be a very exciting moment. But instead, the commentary has very, very heavily focused on her body. Ariana's always been a very small person, but now the internet has decided that she's too small. And with absolutely no insight into her private life or medical background, by the way, they've started to diagnose her.
The internet is upset again, and it's upset again about Ariana Grande, with good reason. Many people are done with the gaslighting about not commenting on the bodies of public figures, especially when said public figures base their branding on their looks and aesthetics and style, which includes their bodies. In many cases, they use their bodies to push a certain image to gain popularity, such as Lizzo, for instance. She repeatedly said don't comment on her body, but she's always flaunting her body and in fact walking around sporting events in like assless chaps with her butt cheeks out in front of children. So yeah, if you make your body the subject of discussion, people are going to discuss it. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too, essentially. And the internet has had enough of the body positivity whiplash from hypocrites like Lizzo, who first scolded you to embrace fatness and told you that dieting was evil on some level, who are now flaunting significantly slimmer frames seemingly overnight. And I don't think anyone is faulting them for losing weight. People are faulting them for the blatant hypocrisy. And they've also had enough of celebs who once looked perfectly normal, who are now rocking skeletal frames like adipose tissue has gone out of style. And the fact that they're all doing it so blatantly yet so quietly is what's incredibly dubious about the whole thing. It's like we've all awakened after being tranquilized, trapped in the universe of the substance, or like the new Ozempic matrix, and Margaret Qualley is the evil queen, and all the celebs are trying to collectively brainwash you into believing the body mass index has been completely rewritten and you've been left out. They're trying to convince us that this is the new norm, and it's not even subtle. That's the part that's blowing my mind. The body dysmorphia is off the freaking charts right now, because how do any of them possibly think they look even remotely appealing? They look horrendous, skeletal, consumptive, on the brink of blowing over, or worse, dropping dead. How, as a woman, can you even begin to defend yourself in this world where you very much need to be on your guard if you're this frail and feather light? Not to mention, they all look so empty and vacant. You need calories and carbs for brain function, let alone mobility and strength. So I suppose it's no coincidence that the thinner these women are becoming, the more vacuous they're beginning to look behind the eyes, like the lights are on, but nobody's actually home. It's perhaps fitting, then, that the withering body of Ariana Grande, the queen of the vapid, doe-eyed stare, is at the center of the most heated discourse on the subject. As always, I think it's fair to acknowledge that some people are expressing genuine concern about her health and always have been, but some people are just being body-shaming bullies who enjoy tearing women down for sport based on their appearances for a plethora of reasons, and they are currently having a field day with this. So I think it is important to distinguish between the two voices and the intentions behind those voices. But female celebs are sadly accustomed to having their looks disparaged and their bodies scrutinized to death, even when it's completely unwarranted. And as a result, they feel there's no safe place to land. And most never end up feeling comfortable in their own skin, despite how beautiful many of them actually are.
Surviving Hollywood, surviving, an industry that can be cutthroat. Certainly when I was younger, was very cutthroat, and the mainstream media in the UK, it's no secret, were absolutely horrific to me. And I was scrutinized for how I looked because they decided I was fat. Well, what do you think that does to a person's self-esteem? What do you think that does to someone who probably was teetering on the verge of a horrible eating disorder at that age? Because I don't know any young actress at that time in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s who wasn't battling with some form of issue around their physical selves, because that was simply what the press did.
Which is why, to some extent, you can sympathize with their plight of ever chasing the latest beauty standards in order to land movie roles or to remain relevant, sometimes to the detriment of their physical wellness. What's the age-old adage that you have to suffer for beauty? What does it say that Demi Moore herself could star in a social satire as cutting and clever as The Substance?
It was such a unique, out-of-the-box way of delving into this subject matter of aging, that pursuit of perfection, the placing value and validation on the external aspects as opposed to valuing our insides.
Then turn around and seemingly become the aging Ozempic poster girl herself. Despite being positioned to lead the conversation about harmful beauty ideals and how they are literally destroying women, particularly those of a certain age, she turned right around and succumbed to the pressure, almost as though the cautionary irony of the entire film went right over her head. But can we really blame her? The sad reality is she succumbed to the pressure because in a lot of ways she was being left behind in an industry oversaturated with women far more youthful and effervescent, like Margaret Qualley herself, whose looks are fresh and current and stunning. This is basically mirroring the tragic fate of Demi's character in the movie. And it's clear to me Demi also succumbed to the new thin culture because she is the product of deep psychological psychological conditioning and coercive imagery and demands for thinness that no doubt inundated her inner world long before she ever began working in Hollywood in the 80s. Since the beginning of time, essentially, women have been told some variation of they're too fat, too skinny, too old, too young, too white, not white enough, not curvy enough, too plastic when they do things to become more curvy, too short, too tall, so forth and so on. It's the reason Victorian women were cramming their bodies into these torture devices and could barely breathe half the time. It's horrendous. I think in modern times, Kylie Jenner embodies the plight of toxic beauty imperatives being foisted upon women at a young age, and then those very same women being mocked or scorned after doing all they can to adhere to those standards in a desperate attempt to stop comments critical of their pre-op bodies. I, for one of those people who were scornful of people who had tons of plastic surgery, especially women with fake lips and fake boobs and all these face fillers. However, the more I've aged and learned, I've come to develop far more empathy for them. Their decisions are just the result of the same harmful beauty standards that have always made me feel inadequate when I was growing up and felt I needed to look perfect and began a Patrick Bateman grooming routine in high school, constantly tweezing the eyebrows. I looked at an old picture of myself where I had total eyebrow blindness when I was in high school. My eyebrows were non-existent. They were like those 1920s eyebrows. And that's because I was so obsessed with getting it right. And the only difference is women who get plastic surgery typically have the means to seek that perfection under the knife because it's not cheap. Whereas I had to rely on crash diets and workout machines and skincare and hair products. And I remember me and my brother doing the cayenne pepper diet, which was horrendous. I remember me and my brother taking diet pills from China, and God only knows what was in them, but they were so full of caffeine. I got caffeine sickness and developed severe anxiety. So it was bad. It was rough when I was in high school and in my early 20s. Kylie was introduced to fame at a young age due to her family constantly being in the reality TV spotlight, which must have been hell for her, meaning she grew up on camera and her awkward phases and teenage imperfections were immortalized on camera for all time. That does something to a person that is not even fully describable. She said she was bullied her entire life and was admittedly motivated to alter her appearance apparently, which she mostly owns up to now after being bullied by the public for so long. I believe this is particularly true of her natural lips, which led her to develop the highly popular and apparently lucrative Kylie Lip Kit because so many girls have the same plight. So it went mega viral. It was very popular for a while there, and I believe it apparently made her a billionaire. She would also even go on to give the specific details of her boob job at one point, which is wild. And I believe she even mentioned something about regretting that boob job and saying that her pre-op boobs were perfect at the time. But now I notice that any photo of her posted online tends to inspire comments about her body, whether she's flaunting it or not, and there are usually unkind things being said about her for having had plastic surgery. She also went viral not too long ago for daring to show up to an event without a full face of filler and makeup, and was even scorned for that. People cruelly made jokes that she looked like Cillian Murphy around the same time, and that honestly broke my heart because I couldn't imagine what it was doing to her internally, and it was so widespread and so humiliating. And this is apparently something that caused her to break down while speaking to Kendall in one of those reality TV shows. And it's a shame because this poor girl is only 28 years old now, meaning she has a lifetime of Botox injections ahead of her to keep some of these cruel public digs at bay. So no matter what women do, it's never enough. As a woman in a female body, you are constantly being appraised or targeted. So you're constantly being appraised, judged based on how beautiful or not beautiful enough you are. You're also just targeted for having female anatomy because the number of men who feel entitled to your body or feel entitled to make passes at you or to stare at you or gawk at you or to put you down if you don't want them. Then there's the attacks and the true crime, and it's just all of that is just composed of women just trying to exist and not being left alone. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have someone like Julia Roberts, who was recently torn down pretty badly simply because she has not had a lot of work done and dared to be on camera without her hair done and makeup on. People were literally offended by the state of her looks in a candid photo with her niece Emma Roberts. And the saddest part is that her response was was her talking about how utterly happy she was in that moment until she read the online comments. The same thing happened to Lauren Graham. She's known mostly for playing Lorelai Gilmore on The Gilmore Girls. I noticed she invited a lot of criticism in a recent interview with Kelly Bishop for daring to age and not thinking to wear a freaking paper bag in public. Therefore, the argument that some Ariana Grande stans pose, that no matter what Ariana does, it's never enough and she's always criticized anyway, is undeniably fair. Ariana expressed as much during the Wicked press tour, which I mentioned in my last video covering her and Cynthia Erivo.
And I'm wondering, how do you do to cope with beauty standards, to critics, to looks? Because this is something that is so overwhelming for women to always look perfect. How do you deal with that?
My goodness. Yeah. I'm not gonna. It's okay. It's okay. It's just. It's a good question. Really good question.
Thank you.
Because I've been kind of doing this in front of the public and kind of been, a specimen in a petri dish really since I was 16 or 17. You know, so I have heard it all. I've heard every version of it, of what's wrong with me. And then you fix it, and then it's wrong for different reasons.
I have to admit that as a human woman with a body myself, I can deeply sympathize with this sentiment. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. With that being said, however, I think it's also fair to distinguish between superficial idiots being sexist bullies and those who are legitimately in fear for her life, now drawing comparisons to people like Karen Carpenter. Karen Carpenter was an American singer and a part of the 1970s pop duo The Carpenters, along with her brother Richard Carpenter. She was known for hits like Close to You, We've Only Just Begun, and Rainy Days and Mondays. Despite her success, Karen Carpenter is also infamous for struggling with an ED for years. A lot less was understood about EDs at the time. Back then, people were clueless about how to have responsible discourse around this incredibly sensitive subject. Much speculation went on regarding Karen's declining health and her weight issues, just like Ariana, with some people even speculating she might have been on drugs. The severity of her illness eventually led to dire health complications, and on February 4th, 1983, at just 32 years old, which is reportedly Ariana's current age, she died from heart failure related to the ED. As a result, her heart-wrenching death brought widespread attention to EDs and is still the main reference for celebs who publicly suffered with this illness and ultimately lost their battle. There have been many celebs like Taylor Swift who have confessed to battling with EDs over the years, but few have succumbed to the illness so tragically. For me personally, I tried to give the matter time when the discourse first began about Ariana's weight problems. I was pretty late when I first spoke about it, and even then I said we still don't know what's going on, but I suspected it was an ED at the time. And that was many moons ago. And I do understand the mounting concern because with an illness like ED, it's a progressive one, meaning if you're not actively trying to recover or seek treatment, it tends to get worse over time until you start having, like organ failure. And at some point, it gets so severe that the damage done to your body and internal systems is irreparable, even if you recover from the ED. And it tends to be one of those illnesses where no one can really help you overcome it until you yourself are ready to acknowledge that there's a problem, sort of like addiction, because no one on earth can sit with you 24 hours a day ensuring that you don't drink alcohol or that you don't do drugs. Likewise, no one can force feed you. Well, they can, usually when things get pretty dire, but up until that point, you're sort of on your own. All your loved ones can really do is voice their concerns. And in many scenarios, such as with addiction and eating disorders, those closest to the people suffering can tend to become their enablers, like what we see on shows like My 600 Pound Life. Hardly anyone gets to 600 pounds alone, because once you get that big, or even bigger, you tend to become immobilized and bedridden, and so you're entirely relying on other people to bring you food or even cook your food. What we see on that show is that almost every 600-pound person has an enabler in the home, or one that's visiting the home, a drug dealer of sorts who is supplying them the food and who themselves are suffering highly complex emotions and psychological tendencies that convince them that there is nothing wrong with feeding this morbidly obese person 4,000 calories a day, despite every additional bite having the potential to cost them their life. In the case of people with Anna, it comes in the form of normalizing the non-eating, helping to hide it or excuse it, and quite literally enabling the delusion for the sick person that they are okay and that there is nothing wrong with them. I believe we see this in the form of Eugenia Cooney's mom. I believe her name is Deb. Eugenia is a popular influencer known for her extremely severe ED, which even Shane Dawson tried to help her fix for whatever it was worth a few years ago. And she's been battling this ED on camera for over a decade. She's kind of a medical miracle. The fact that she's still walking at this weight and the fact that she has been suffering it for so long. She's really resilient. And certainly she's a few levels beyond Ariana, but probably not for long. Eugenia seems beyond skeletal to me. It's to the point where I fear this poor girl's bones have begun wasting away because her fat and muscles are non-existent. It's beyond time for her to be institutionalized and given life-saving treatment by force. Now, she's been offline for seemingly over a year at this point, and one of the last times she posted, she had this very eerie setback while live streaming, where she had to cut it short because she became visibly ill and looked to be dry heaving. It was so heartbreaking to watch because at the end of the day, you realize she's just a girl who needs help. Even if you have like reasons to dislike her for whatever reason, you feel she's influencing people negatively, she's still just a girl and she needs help. And you can see how scared she looked in this moment. So she was later demonetized after this incident by major platforms, finally, because her content is incredibly harmful and does glorify her illness to some extent. And because of being demonetized, she left social media altogether, it seems. And hopefully she's somewhere getting treatment. I desperately fear Ariana's family and her fans who like to enable her or deny that there is a problem would let her get to Eugenia's point someday and would still be insisting nothing is wrong. And I worry there may be some incentive for people in her life who are benefiting from her financially to ignore all the warning signs and keep her working because they fear the day their lucrative arrangement will end. She's like a freaking golden goose. So there's every incentive for people with their hands in her pocket to keep her working and deny that there's a problem. And I truly dread waking up to headlines someday that something horrible has happened to Ariana and we all sat back and allowed it to happen because we're trying so hard to be polite and politically correct and body positive. I do think it's time for her label and management and PR team to be pressured into getting this poor girl help if it is the case that this is an ED. And to be honest, if it were the case that she was battling some other grave illness like cancer that was causing her the radical weight loss, she wouldn't be able to maintain a tour lineup or countless major work projects and public events like she does. So the fact that she's still working quite regularly lends credence to the idea that is likely more along the lines of an unaddressed ED and malnourishment as opposed to like a grave illness. And she and her team might truly just be in denial. With her insane work schedule from filming 2 massive movies back to back to recording yet another album, promoting it, and now touring, it's difficult to imagine she is getting the rest she would truly need to recover from an ED. And the fact that they co-signed her going on tour, something that is incredibly physically taxing, just ask Harry Styles, by the way. I just don't know what the hell they're thinking and why they would be putting all of this on her at this particular time.
I'm very excited to do this small tour, but I think it might not happen again for a long time. So I'm going to give it my all, and it's going to be beautiful because I'm like, one last hurrah.
One day I'll wake and rub my eyes, and in that land beyond the sky.
These are some interesting TikTok videos and comments I saw that I wanted to discuss because they made fair points.
No, this picture is not edited whatsoever. This is Ariana Grande at her first show of the Eternal Sunshine Tour yesterday in Oakland. And obviously many people are talking about this on social media, but the problem is there are so many fans of hers that are defending her and going at people that are, concerned about this. Saying things like that's body shaming and that we all need to be body positive. But in my opinion, you can only be so body positive. It gets to a point where this is very harmful. And here are the dates for the tour, and it goes all the way until September 1st. I'm just concerned she won't have the stamina to get there. Food is fuel for our bodies, and that's why a lot of people are concerned that she might faint at one of these shows.
I think that Ariana Grande is going through something called narcissistic collapse. I think mainly triggered by the outing of her cheating scandal and divorce with Dalton Gomez. I think that Dalton is one of the only men that has ended a relationship with her and also moved on and done better. I believe in previous dynamics, she had more control over the narrative of the ending of the relationship. Now, narcissistic collapse is an actual clinical term, and I'm using it to basically to describe the behavior that we're seeing in her. Okay, so it is a psychological breakdown that occurs when people who have narcissistic-like personality traits receive a major blow to their ego. Okay, things like public humiliation, loss of a relationship, that completely shatters their reputation that they have so carefully crafted. One of the things that they will do during a narcissistic collapse is trying to play the victim in order to regain control over the narrative.
This is a screenshot from the video Ariana Grande just posted for REM Beauty, and I just have to say, I know that she's probably not posting on social media, it's her team, and I just need to know, like, who's in those rooms? You know, like, who's, like, watching these videos, seeing the photos from the concert and, like, posting them, agreeing that she should go on tour, profiting from the tour, because I know we shouldn't be commenting on people's bodies, but, like, this is beyond, okay? Beyond. And there's people in rooms right now, like, posting these and being like, yep, that's approved.
First of all, there's this really cynical idea about the psychology behind an ED, where it's widely believed that people with EDs are cognizant of the fact that they are unhealthy and are negatively influencing others, but are intentionally romanticizing the ED aesthetic and are participating in a sort of ED culture that found its roots back on social media in the early 2010s, places like Tumbler and Pinterest, where girls would upload images of other girls looking as frail and doll-like as possible, and they basically made thinspo posts, thinspiration posts with coded hashtags. There were claims that way back in 2013, Ariana was contributing to this culture on her Tumblr account, where it said that she was known for posting pro-Anna and pro-Mia content.
If you were a preteen or a teen in the 2011-2012 era of Felice Fawn, if you even know the name Felice Fawn, you are also an active witness to Ariana Grande and Bella Hadid's incredibly popular Tumblr blogs dedicated to tracking their weight loss and putting out spell. Well, Sam and Cat was still on. Ari was only popular with the preteens that knew and loved her from Victorious. I don't even think she had put out a real record yet. And Bella was kind of just known for being friends with the Jenners. Maybe by this point, Gigi had gotten famous enough that she was known for being Gigi Hadid's sister. I don't think that we'll ever get an admission from either of them that that's what those blogs were. But I know, and a lot of you know.
People often insist that her photos come off as body watching, and her food choices are indicative of the fact that she was terrified of calories, basically, like fridges full of greens and vegan food and a birthday edible arrangement of fruits. I mean, we're all a little terrified of calories, aren't we? Seriously, who can blame her? The American diet is so calorie dense, it makes me want to scream sometimes. And to be fair, I scrolled her old Tumblr, and it didn't look as bad as some people made it out to be, I have to be honest. So when you take all the questionable images of her body in isolation, yeah, it can come off as bad and as though she's obsessing over her body, but when taken in context with all the other posts on her account, it didn't seem as dire to me as some were making it out to be. It just comes off as the scrapbook of a young, girly girl who likes pretty things, romantic aesthetics, and who loves being petite. Whether you agree that Ariana Grande has an ED or not, it's beyond clear she enjoys feeling and looking small, and more significantly, fragile, which obviously could be contributing to the reason she possibly developed disordered eating to begin with. Her desire to remain small and young looking is just undeniable. She seems emotionally stunted in that way, and I discussed this in my last video on her, which is wild because she's over 30 now, but still loves to walk around acting so delicate and babyish and pretending like she's cosplaying Tinkerbell. It's like, come on, Ariana, menopause is right around the corner. So the notion that she's pro-Anna and a part of a culture on Tumblr that fetishized EDs is up for debate. There are certainly elements to this concept that I can see being true. Some girls suffering from EDs do indeed romanticize it. And in fact, the early 2010s social media was so rife with pro-Anna and pro-Mia and thinspo content that many of the major platforms had to take steps to curtail it because it was negatively influencing the youth. Again, one of the most brazen perpetrators of pro-Anna content is the undisputed queen herself, Eugenia Cooney. There are times where it's beyond obvious that she loves the way she looks and she thinks she looks attractive, and it's almost like she's trying to seduce a certain contingent of her viewers because she wears these little weird skimpy outfits and often slinks around in them seductively, and it is so bizarre and disturbing that anyone could be enjoying the sight of her. She genuinely unnerves me on a level I can't even begin to define, and seeing her smile and preen like some weird witchy doll and crave attention for the way she looks is beyond sinister to me. So I do see elements of that attention-seeking behavior in some people who have EDs and go out of their way to glamorize them, but I would never suspect that this is all people who suffer from this disorder, or even the vast majority of them. And I get why people feel Ariana falls into this category because she lives such a public life and is always on camera and is knowingly influencing generations of young, impressionable people, yet she continues to insist she is healthy, telling you to deny the evidence of your eyes. It's clear she's not healthy, and she continues to irresponsibly put herself in front of those very fans as though it's okay for people to aspire to look like her. She is a public figure, and although it may make her uncomfortable, she has made her fortune being a public figure, and this sadly opens them up to public commentary on all aspects of her public life, including her cheating scandals. That commentary now reasonably includes discussions about her wasted body, which she uses to sell her brand and inspire young girls. Arguing otherwise is silly and disingenuous. I saw this comment that seemed to embody all the talking points of the opposite side, which in essence is, we don't know what's going on in her private life, she could be getting help already, and if you see it, then the other people around her also see it. This person said, quote, "What makes you think she is not being helped at the moment already? I think if you have seen it, you are not the only one. She might see it herself, plus her acquaintances must have to. We don't know what she is already going through. It's like seeing someone who's looking sick that is fighting against an ill and telling them, you look sick, you should get help. We don't know her life. Let her do her tour for fuck's sake." As irritating as this logic is, I do believe it is being stated in good faith. He means well, even though he is articulating it poorly. But this is the exact sort of enabling language that leaves a person who is clearly in denial about their dire circumstances to their own devices until it's too late to help them. Because the main thing Ariana insisted when she did speak on this a year ago was that she was the healthiest she had ever been, and that is just gaslighting. So it's just like if you saw a drug addict who is visibly becoming sicker and you decide to say, I won't voice any concerns because clearly they know they have an issue, and clearly the people around them know they have an issue, so I'll just leave them to OD in the corner over there. That's absurd. Again, there are two distinct positions being taken about the Ariana situation. Some are mocking and hateful, which are clearly wrong, but some are born of genuine concern because they simply do not want to see this girl die. It has actually come to that. People are speaking out because they don't want her to drop dead.
And we are being encouraged to pretend like what's right in front of us isn't what's happening. I'm going to show you a picture of what she looked like during the Positions era, just a few years ago. And this is not to shame or to body check her, but it is literally just to say, this is not healthy, and it's so obvious to me and so many people seeing it, and it's really upsetting that I feel like I'm not allowed to talk about it. She looks like she's just a sneeze away from being Karen Carpenter.
Like this next commenter mentioned, we tend to only show real concern for some celebs after it's already too late. Quote, "I remember when Nikki Graham died. All everyone talked about was how we failed her. But when people are trying to just simply show how obvious it is that Ariana is sick, they get harassed and bullied. Stop. She is unwell. This is not normal." By the way, Nikki Graham was a British television personality known for appearing on The Big Brother in the UK in 2006. She was apparently one of the more memorable contestants, but it turns out she struggled for many years with an ED. After health complications connected to her illness, she died on October 9th, 2021 at 38 years old, very similar to Karen Carpenter. And I'll also just mention briefly here Bella Hadid. She's always celebrated for her looks, her thinness, but she too, for some reason, has become excruciatingly thin to the point where her jutting hip bones just look horrifying. Her legs have become stick thin. and she's not model thin. She's like ED thin at this point. And the problem with Bella Hadid is that it's also coupled with her being extremely sickly for reasons I don't think are okay or normal. I discussed this in a really old video about Yolanda Hadid's role and what I believe to be making her children believe they are sick. I'll discuss it again in detail in a future video, but it's not good. And I think it was conditioned into her to be ill and to think she's ill and to make herself ill. It's very tragic and sad. But people were mentioning like she got on this carousel and it started moving and she panicked. And somebody commented the fact that she panicked when it was only moving like 1 mile per hour shows she's not well. And I know it's not funny, but it was going really, really slow. But yeah, that's just how fragile these women are becoming. So people are allowed to voice concerns about public figures, especially when the issue is this evident and appears to be unaddressed. It's gone on for months now and seems to be getting worse. And Ariana continues to work at an alarming pace, which is only going to continue to overtax her dwindling strength. So the guy defending Ariana and saying, let her do her tour for fuck's sake. How about no? How about she should be in treatment right now? This is the prime time to help her, to intervene. She should not be touring and dancing and flaunting this frail body and doing things that drain the strength of even a fit person, let alone someone who is clearly unwell. How about stop putting your obsession and your need to consume her music and see her on stage and have her continually working above genuine concerns for her well-being? She is visibly winded and shaky on stage. The first thing I noticed is her trembling leg, which, let's be honest, most of our legs would tremble if we were over 30 and wearing 10-inch heels, but it's more overstated because she's used to wearing these heels and jumping around and dancing. You can just tell the difference from her tour years ago to now. Part of that is aging, but she's not that old yet. So let's be honest, it's about her being frail and underweight, and she's still strutting around in these 10-inch heels and doing her choreography at half speed so that she can try to put on a show for her fans. The very fact that they made adjustments to her tour dates and her set list and her choreography to accommodate her dwindling health is disturbing because it shows her team is aware of the issue but are still greenlighting her workload. And they're also greenlighting her photos and videos that she's posting online like her chest bones are not visible. If she and her team won't do the responsible thing and address this and even clarify whether or not she's suffering from an ED or if something else is going on, then it is perfectly okay for the public to conclude they are glamorizing her ED to her young fans and trivializing the perils of her being dangerously underweight. Because whatever is causing her to be underweight, she is underweight and it is having an impact on her fans who would glamorize it thinking it's okay. So it makes sense at this point, at this stage, to address it publicly in a responsible way. A perfect example of how Ariana could be negatively impacting other young people already suffering from EDs is this TikTok comment. Quote, as someone currently in ED treatment, if people weren't talking about this, it would seriously impact me. All of the commentary validating that this is sick is helping motivate me to keep going. So I don't want to go back to that. So it is good to talk about it, and I thank you. That is a very refreshing comment, and hopefully this person will get better very soon. I also saw a TikTok comment that read, quote, when will y'all understand that this tour is a dream for anyone who has Anna? You get to show off your bod, work on stage, and have millions of people be concerned for you with all that attention, and not to mention the exhilarating feeling of passing out anytime from lack of energy, which gives you more attention. Those who know what Ariana is doing. And this puts me in the mind of like those K-pop artists who are always like fainting on stage because they're so underweight and malnourished. Someone else said she knows what she's promoting, and another person chimed in and said, I think she likes to emphasize it, sad face. It's important to note that EDs are not clinically thought to be the result of mere attention seeking. From my understanding of EDs, they are symptomatic of something underlying, psychologically or emotionally speaking, and can even be the result of physical abuse and past trauma. Therefore, because they're so complex, I don't think it's fair to simply dismiss the phenomenon as people wanting attention or enjoying what they're doing to themselves. Those sorts of attitudes may, to some degree, be the manifestation of a coping mechanism for what they're doing to themselves, like pretending it's okay or pretending that they want this and that is normal. But I think deep down, a lot of these people are confused and scared and have deep issues at play other than the disordered eating and a yearning to be thin. So I would like to mention a counterpoint here as to why someone with an ED might engage in attention-seeking behaviors and may even be using the ED as a means to gain control over some facet of their lives, or as a cry for help when they have trouble verbalizing their need for help. And then someone also said, quote, "They made fun of her for being fat at the Aretha Franklin funeral and she's been losing weight ever since then. That way, no one can fat shame her ever again. This is what bullying does." I totally agree with that sentiment. Along with trauma, relentless bullying very much can damage a person's self-image, forever altering the way they see themselves. And then that's when the body dysmorphia kicks in and continues to reinforce the lies we feed ourselves about our appearance. And it would take some serious commitment to treatment and counseling to even begin to undo that damage, especially when it's inflicted at a young, formative age. On a viral video discussing Ariana's health decline, someone posted a photo of Karen Carpenter and said, "Don't ignore the signs." Someone else said, "Oh yeah, this is bad." Someone else said, "It looks painful to move and even cold." That's honestly how I feel when I look at Eugenia Cooney. Like, how does it not hurt to be that thin? Another commenter said, "This is very alarming. I wish someone would get her help." This is also the worst possible time in our society to be battling an ED, particularly the one that encourages you to not eat thanks to the resurgence of skinny culture returning to Hollywood. I discussed this in my last video, and things have only gotten more dire since I first posted that, I believe like 4 to 6 months ago. I'm truly shocked by the sheer number of celebs who have seemed to succumb to this odd social contagion and are now visibly and dreadfully underweight, but also flaunting it on red carpets. Those celebs include Hunter Schafer, Alexa Demi, Zoe Kravitz, Emma Stone, poor Kelly Osbourne, and even her mother Sharon Osbourne, Lily Collins, Demi Moore, and Olivia Wilde, who recently went viral for her quote-unquote new look, which has left her head and eyes so disproportionately large and her face so drawn that she was unfortunately being compared to Gollum when photos surfaced of her at a recent red carpet event. She would go on to respond to the backlash about her appearance in a playful, jokey way, in the exact way you would expect someone suffering with an ED to do.
Olivia Wilde, do you care to address recent rumors that you're a resurrected corpse?
No. It's startling. It's a startling image. It was a fisheye lens and not the... I don't know why I was so close to the camera. I didn't have to be. That's not the truth.
Utter denial, even going so far as to claim it was a fisheye lens or a bad angle. No, actually it's not. And I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, don't you just feel like Kim Kardashian is the root of all that's going wrong in the world? I'm only half kidding, trying to scapegoat one woman for the root of all the societal ills we're experiencing today, since they're really just a resurgence of past ills and the perpetual seesaw of trends coming in and out of style. But think about it. Kim Kardashian is truly a trendsetter on a level we really haven't seen before the eruption of the digital age. Or maybe it's just the case that she really has her finger on the pulse and her team are really adept at forecasting future trends and making sure she's at the head of them. I feel like when she first became famous is when we started obsessing as a culture over full faces of makeup with the contouring and highlighting and the full brows to the point where everyone started to look alike, and really everyone started to look like Kim K. Also, her and her clan sort of normalized plastic surgery, whereas a more acceptable part of, I guess, what one would call look-smaxing today, the Kardashians were like the original claviculars for women. I know women in Hollywood had always gotten plastic surgery before, but it seemed almost shameful and was always denied and kept under wrap. And while the Kardashians and Jenners weren't always forthcoming about their surgeries, there was still an element to the profusion of procedures they had where it was undeniable, and they behaved in a way that let you know they were unapologetic. So that opened doorways for people to become more accepting of plastic surgery. So when the modern influencer was spawned, they were modeled after people like Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton. They all followed suit, taking those beauty standards and beauty hacks and consumerism to the extreme. And good God, I also blame Kim Kardashian for the Ozempic craze. Remember back in 2022 when she very publicly discussed losing weight to fit into Marilyn Monroe's iconic dress for the Met Gala, and everyone wondered how she slimmed down so dramatically and so quickly. That's when we first heard the word Ozempic whispered, because it was shortly before this, sometime in 2022, that a higher dose of the GLP-1 drug, I believe it's pronounced semaglutide or semaglutide, was approved by the FDA for weight loss under the brand name Wegovy. It's known colloquially online as Ozempic, but Ozempic is not approved for weight loss. Ozempic is the brand name version of the drug approved for diabetes treatment, but that just became the sort of catch-all term when we refer to the craze of GLP-1 injections that has overtaken the world. And I swear, it's like Kim K brought Ozempic back from some intergalactic conference of beauty-obsessed ETs, and they set Hollywood on fire. And I feel like what we see going on with all the other celebs and even Ariana is a result of what Kim Kardashian started when she just simply wanted to fit into Marilyn Monroe's dress one random Met Gala Eve, and she opened the door to all of this, I feel. Again, I'm only being half serious here, but Kim Kardashian definitely helped kick off the Ozempic craze, and that has spiraled half of Hollywood into EDs and left them at the brink of organ failure because they are not using Ozempic responsibly. Anyway, the general consensus of people voicing legitimate, non-bullying concerns over Ariana is that it is irresponsible to glamorize her illness for young, impressionable fans, and also that it's gotten to the point where Ariana clearly needs help. It's time for her team and loved ones to intervene on a serious level, meaning canceling her tour and helping her get inpatient care before things become worse than anyone can imagine. At this rate, it honestly won't be long before she's so unwell she'll be forced into an early retirement, and then we'll be hearing unfortunate headlines about her untimely demise. So that's where I fall on the subject, and I would love to hear your thoughts on everything as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon with a new video in a couple of weeks.